letting your mother run your life.
How dare he try to tell me how to raise my kids after he have abandoned us? He has some nerve.
Y'all have lives to live yourself, and she can't run her life, her home, and your home too.
You know what? Had you been home long enough to help me to raise them, it wouldn't be such a problem. But where were you? Out there hanging in the street,
what did you do
doing
all
whatever
day?
you were
What
big
did you
enough
do
to do.
all day long?
What did you do?
What did you do?
Evelyn could say some things out her mouth that are really cutting.
But your daughters are being held emotionally hostage to your ex-wife's bitterness towards you. You and her need to get on the same side of the table and free those girls. Because the elephant in the room that nobody will talk about is Evelyn Braxton's attitude.
Toni Braxton filed for bankruptcy twice, lost millions, watched her health collapse in real time, and spent decades carrying a family that was quietly eating her alive. And the part that nobody wanted to say out loud, the part that got edited around and danced over for 15 seasons of reality television, is that the person most responsible for all of it was never a label executive, never a bad boyfriend, never the industry, it was her mother. And the fact that it took this long for people to say it directly is its own kind of story. If this is your first time here, subscribe and stay close, because what we're about to get into goes way deeper than anything that show ever let on.
Because you went to my house and had sex in my bed? So you mad with me? You know? You mad with me because you bring this woman in my bathroom and y'all have sex in my bathroom with the candles? Oh, don't.
Oh, it was romantic, Lord.
Candles all around the tub?
Oh,
and she's gonna leave her big underwear on the floor? So you mad with me because I would not tolerate this mess?
I always.
Come on now.
But the responsibility of it is so heavy for me. I feel I can never live my life, and I never used to say it. I never used to say anything to anybody, but since we've been doing this show.
Now, here is the first thing that most people get wrong about Toni Braxton's story. They start with the music, with the contracts, with Arista Records and the money she never saw. And yes, all of that happened, and it was real, but the contracts didn't break Toni Braxton. What broke Toni Braxton was what was waiting for her at home every single time she tried to come up for air, because even when the deals eventually got better, even when the money started coming in, it was already spoken for before she could touch it, going to her sisters, going to the family, going to whatever emergency Mama E had decided was Toni's responsibility that week. And the truly wild part is that when it ran out and things fell apart, it was framed as Toni's failure, like she hadn't tried hard enough, like she owed them something she hadn't delivered yet. And Toni, and this is the part that will make you want to scream, accepted that she kept accepting it for decades. And to understand why she accepted it, you have to go back to the divorce, because everything—
I feel like I do. I feel like they don't let me fly. I don't.
I heard you say that.
I don't give myself permission to fly because
There you go. That's it.
Waited.
That's it.
And I mean, everything in that family flows downstream from one moment when Michael Braxton's infidelity came out, and Evelyn decided that her pain was going to become the organizing principle of that entire household. She didn't just get divorced. She conscripted her children into her grief. She made them soldiers in a war they had nothing to do with. And the rule was simple, even if it was never said out loud: you are either with me or you are the enemy. And the daughter who didn't get that memo fast enough was Tracy, who stayed close to her dad and watched what happened to her as a result. And Toni saw all of it. She watched what Evelyn did to Tracy for simply loving her father, and she made the only calculation a child in that position can make. She chose her mother. She became the protector, and from that day forward, her entire identity was built around never being the one who abandoned the family. Now here is where it gets really uncomfortable, because Evelyn Braxton will sit in an interview and describe her ex-husband's betrayal in cinematic detail, the candles around the tub, the other woman's underwear on her bathroom floor, and then look you dead in the camera and tell you she is not bitter, that she has forgiven, that she has moved on, and what makes that so dangerous is that she genuinely believes it.
Now, friends, when we talking about the Braxton family values, we really gotta talk about the real problem, the mama. The mama was causing so many problems. The mama was the reason why all them girls had an issue with each other. That she was the reason why all of them had some type of deep-rooted issue with each other. Because every time, and I mean, every time she sat there and led the discussion, it showed, you're the reason why this girl feels like this. You are egging a lot of things on instead of really nipping it in the bud.
She has told herself that story so many times. It became the truth she lives in, and a person who knows they're angry can at least choose to work on it. But a person who has convinced themselves they're healed while actively poisoning every relationship around them, that is a completely different level of damage, and her daughters were on the receiving end of that damage every single day. And the way it showed up for Toni specifically was through guilt. Relentless, perfectly calibrated guilt, because every time Toni's career required her to think about herself first, every time she tried to make a decision that was purely for her, Evelyn had a way of reframing it as abandonment, of making Toni feel like her success was a betrayal rather than something the whole family should have been celebrating. And that's not an accident. That is a control mechanism. And it worked. It worked for 30 years. It worked so well that Toni literally said on camera, "I feel like they don't let me fly," and then caught herself, like she almost said too much. Like, even in that moment of honesty, she was still protecting someone who was not protecting her.
Let me know if you're picking up what I'm putting down. So looking at Tina Knowles and her children, and looking at Evelyn Braxton and her girls, it's proof to me that forgiveness or unforgiveness and bitterness can trickle down to your kids. I feel like Tina Knowles is the reason why Solange and Beyonce are able to persevere and press through adversity with grace and poise. I know this is a weird way to put it, but Beyonce and Solange was able to see their parents go through a healthy divorce. Even Miss Tina acknowledged that they did not go back and forth, and honestly, she had every reason to be bitter and not forgive him for having an outside baby on her. And then on the other hand, we can look at Miss Evelyn Braxton and see why her daughters are still on each other's neck in their 40s and 50s.
But then something shifts, and this is the twist nobody was ready for, because sources started noting that Toni's lupus, which is an autoimmune disease that has a well-documented connection to chronic long-term stress, may have been triggered by the environment she was living in. And when you sit with that, when you actually let that land, this stops being a celebrity gossip story and becomes something genuinely disturbing, because we are talking about a woman whose body started attacking itself, and the people closest to her knew what kind of pressure she was under and kept adding to it anyway. And Evelyn's response anytime Toni raised the problem was to flip it, to somehow make Toni the source of the dysfunction rather than the person drowning in it. And that move, that very specific move of making the victim look like the problem, is something you see over and over again when you rewatch that show with fresh eyes. And here's the comparison that changes the whole frame, because around the same time people were watching the Braxtons fall apart on screen, Tina Knowles was quietly doing something completely different with her own divorce. She had every reason to be bitter. Matthew Knowles had an outside child while they were married, humiliated her publicly, and she still refused to make Beyonce and Solange weapons in her pain. She let them have a relationship with their father. She processed her grief somewhere that wasn't her daughter's shoulders, and look at what those women became. Look at how they carry themselves, how they handle pressure, how they move through scandal and adversity with something that looks like actual peace. And then look at the Braxton sisters, all talented, all beautiful, all still fighting the same battles in their 40s and 50s that started in that house in Maryland when they were children, and tell me that's not a direct line. And now that Toni is approaching 60, she has gone almost completely quiet when it comes to her mother. The communication is minimal. What you see on any platform is for the platform. The real relationship is essentially over in any meaningful sense. And you know what the saddest part of that is? It took her until 60 to put it down. She spent her entire career, her health, her money, her peace, trying to hold together something that was never going to hold. And the women who were supposed to be her family let her spend it all, and then asked why the account was empty. So the next time someone asks why Toni Braxton never fully became everything she was supposed to be, the answer isn't Arista Records, the answer isn't the bankruptcy, the answer is that she was never really allowed to be Toni Braxton. She was always somebody's safety net first. And that is the real Braxton family value. Nobody put on a poster. Like and subscribe, because we are just getting started.